Hello and welcome to another Royal Reviewer live pop-up chat. We are live and this is your chance to be able to speak to me and ask me any questions about the royal finances. So today, the royal finances, the Duke of Cornwall, the Duchy of Cornwall's finances have been revealed. The Queen's finances have been revealed from the sovereign grant. In fact, I'm going to pop a link into the description which has all of those links to it. There is so much information to wade through. I've not even had a chance to fully digest all of the different intricacies of these different financial reports. I mean, it will take a very long time to kind of wade through them and unpick them. But of course, the main thing that has come to light amongst all of this is, of course, the renovation cost to Frogmore Cottage, which is the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's only home. I would stress that this is their only home. Oh, by the way, if you can hear traffic, I'm not outside and I can just see a cat come in. Hello, Rory. I've got my window open because it's really humid here in the UK today. It's not good weather. It's cloudy. It's rainy. It's miserable, but it's humid, so I've got my window open. So if you can hear car noise, that's what you can hear. Oh no, he's gone again. He thinks you're all boring, and he thinks royal finances are boring, so he's off. So yes, we're going to be talking about the controversy surrounding Harry and Meghan's £2.4 million renovation of Frogmore Cottage. But before we get into that, I want to open the chat room and say hello to everyone. So I do hope that you are all getting notifications, because I really do want to see what people think about this. I really want people's opinions, actually. So please make your opinions known in the chat room, or if you're watching on catch up, leave a comment. I can see Dave. Apparently only 7 people are watching right now, which tells me that notifications are not being sent out. So Dave, looks like it's just me and you, says, please, why can't the British media leave Harry and Meghan alone? Please, please, please. We will get to that we'll get to that really, really quickly. But first of all, I'm going to post the link. Here we go. The financial reports 2018 to 2019. So this is from the official royal family website. And I'm going to pop this in the description right here. So there we go. Simon has just gotten notification. PJR is here and didn't get one. So I think we're going to be a bit varied with notifications tonight. So probably most people will be watching this on catch-up. Carol says, but look at all the revenue that Harry and Meghan have brought into the UK, because, yes, and we'll get to that as well. Okay, so first of all, I want to start off by saying I have absolutely no issue whatsoever with taxpayer money being spent on Harry and Meghan's Frogmore Cottage home. And I also want to talk about this idea of taxpayer, because the actual money comes from the sovereign grant. Now, if you don't know the history of the sovereign grant, it used to be the civil list. Now, the civil list, way back, there was a deal done between the monarchy and parliament that said that the monarch used to get, in a nutshell, I'm really simplifying things here, but in a nutshell, the monarch used to get all of the profits of the Crown Estates, because the Crown Estates used to completely belong to the monarch. Then a deal was done, and the deal was that in exchange for the profits from the Crown Estate, which go to the public purse, which go to the government, that the monarchy would receive a payment each year to fund the monarchy, to fund the activities of the monarchy. And that deal existed until, maybe 10 years ago or something of that nature, when the civil list was replaced with the sovereign grant, which gives the monarch a percentage in arrears of the profits of the Crown Estates, which are held in trust for the nation by the monarch. So, so this is not money that is extra. So this 2.4 million has not. It isn't money that could have gone elsewhere. I've seen a lot of people in articles and things saying, well, it could have gone, that 2.4 could have gone on hospitals and, charities and all the rest of it. No, that money was money that was earmarked for the monarchy. So they haven't taken any extra public money, and that is really important to point out, because I don't think anybody has. That is money that was earmarked for the monarchy to spend on the monarchy's activities and the preservation and restoration of those buildings that are in the Crown Estates. So that includes properties at Windsor, Buckingham Palace renovations, all that kind of thing. So they haven't taken any taxpayer public money that could have gone elsewhere. This money was already given to the royal family, and then it's up to the royal family to decide how that money is spent. And part of their programme of spending that money is to renovate and upkeep and maintain those buildings, such as Frogmore House, Frogmore Cottage, Buckingham Palace, all those different buildings, and probably loads of buildings that we don't even know about, that haven't come to any attention. So I do want to start by saying that. But one thing that I was genuinely shocked at was actually the amount of money it cost. I was not expecting 2.4 million. There were initial estimates that it was going to be 3 million. And I was very sceptical then. I remember sitting here and telling people, I don't think it'll be 3 million. Just going by the size of the property. Yes, it's a big mansion. It's not technically a cottage. I mean, this, what I'm in, is a cottage. You know, it's small. A cottage is defined as a small property usually found in the country. Now, yes, Harry and Meghan's cottage is in the countryside. It's on the Windsor Estates, but it is not cottage sized. It's a mini mansion. It's a mansion. Let's put it that way. But it's not a castle. It's not some kind of humongous sprawling manor. You know, it's not the same as Bagshot Park where the Wessexes live. It's not the size of Kensington Palace apartment 1A, which William and Catherine have. You know, it is on a smaller scale. It's not as grand as people think. I think sometimes the photographs make it look bigger than it is. And if you do a Google search and do an aerial view, so I've got Rory here, I'm just giving him a tickle. You can see that it's big, but it's not humongous. So I think I estimated how many rooms I thought it would have. So it's come to light, it may have 4 bedrooms and a nursery. So, I mean, I estimated with the reception rooms and all the rest of it, it's going to have no more than probably 15 rooms. So if you work out the cost of 2.4 million divided by about 15 rooms, you're talking £160,000 a room. It seems like a major cost. And I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting something more like 1.1, 1.2 million. So 2.4 million was a bit of a shock. And my only concern is, were they ripped off? I mean, who was the contractor? Who was the main contractor? I mean, obviously with a project of that size, there is, you know, lots of different contractors on site, but there's usually a main contractor. And I'm just hoping that they weren't ripped off. Because 2.4 million for a property of that size, I mean, I've watched programs here in the UK, DIY programs, where people have renovated castles. I mean, we're talking castle-sized, and the bill did not come in at 2.4 million. There is one thing that I don't know the cost of. It did say that it needed its own substation, its electrical substation. I don't know how much substations cost. You know, I'm assuming they probably are quite expensive. But again, 2.4 million. The floating floor was not for a yoga studio. And I remember sat here saying, I'm not really sure about the floating floor. But it turned out the floating floor was for the kitchen. And because it's a listed building, they had to preserve the original floor. So they put a floating floor on the kitchen on top, so that obviously it wouldn't ruin all the original features. Again, it was returning 5 properties back into one, so you know there would have been lots of costs. I don't know if there was asbestos. Asbestos removal in the UK is expensive. William and Catherine's Kensington Palace apartment was full of asbestos, and that was very expensive to remove. Their renovations, by the way, for Kensington Palace apartment 1A, which is a 3-storey building and a basement, so 4 stories I think in total, so it's huge, at least 21 main rooms, came in at around about 4.5 million. And then you had the renovation cost of Anma Hall, their country home, which was 1.5 million. So you're looking at, you know, 5.5 million, 6 million for the Cambridge's renovations of their homes. this is important to remember. This is Harry and Meghan's only home. They haven't got a country property. They haven't got a second property elsewhere. This is their only home. And I think that is important to remember as well. So, I mean, in terms of Cambridges, Sussexes, they have technically had less spent on them than the Cambridges, who have two properties and, you know, a very expensively renovated apartment 1A in Kensington Palace. Now, there was at the time a big furore about the renovation costs for the Cambridges. I remember, in fact, you can, if you do a search on Google, I'm sure you'll be able to find the articles where they, you know, it spoke about the palace defending the costs and all the rest of it. There was criticism about taxpayer funded living in terms of the Cambridges, but today it has blown up. I mean, it's blown up. Piers Morgan's written an article. Everyone's written an article criticising the Sussexes for spending that amount of taxpayer money. Again, as I say, it's not taxpayer money, it's from the sovereign grant, so it was earmarked for the royal family anyway. Oh, and by the way, it still isn't finished. That 2.4 million was just for the renovation construction costs. It doesn't include fixtures and fittings. That's not 2.4 million all in. It excludes kitchens, bathrooms, fireplaces, lighting, carpets, anything that's classed as a fixture and fitting, which I deem as stuff that you could take out. That's what I kind of class as a fixture and fitting. That is not included in that cost. So that's 2.4 million just for the contractors to do it, and it doesn't include the grounds. There's still work to be done on the grounds. So to me, 2.4 million just seems a lot, and I just really hope, I really hope that they weren't ripped off, that the contractors didn't just think, it's the royal family, therefore I'm going to charge an exuberant amount of money just because it's them. For 2.4 million, you could buy some land somewhere private and you could build a huge mansion for 2.4 million. So to me, it does just seem, I was surprised. I will tell you the truth, I was genuinely surprised at the 2.4 million. However, other royal homes have also had, you know, big renovations. Royal Lodge, that had, I think it was around about 7 million. That's where Prince Andrew lives. That cost about 7 million to refurbish. Buckingham Palace is currently undergoing a 10-year renovation programme, estimated to cost over 80 something million pounds over 10 years. So, you know, royal residences do get a lot of funding. But I'm going to stop here now and I'm going to read some comments and then we'll carry on talking because I have some other things left to say too. So, let's go through. Dave says, God bless you for these clarifications. And Adrian Edwards says, it's amazing how racist some people are with regards to the Duchess of Sussex. Doesn't matter how many facts you give them, they're still bent on blaming her. Oh, totally. I mean, I don't blame Harry and Meghan for these costs at all. That Frogmore Cottage was actually earmarked to be renovated anyway, and that is another thing to remember. The royal family does have a responsibility to maintain these buildings that are in their possession. And one other thought I had was, it doesn't technically belong to Harry and Meghan. It still belongs to the Crown. So, yes, it's probably going to be their home forever, but it doesn't actually belong to them. They can't sell it. So this 2.4 million, whatever that has added to the value of that property, you can't include that as their wealth. It's for people who are saying it's taxpayer money. Well, actually, it's actually added value to taxpayer owned assets, if you think of it that way. So Harry and Meghan can't sell it. They can't do anything with it. It's still owned by the Queen in trust for the nation. So again, it hasn't taken anything away from the taxpayer. That money was going to go to the royal family anyway. And I have no problem with that being funded from the sovereign grant at all. You know, Harry and Meghan can't earn their own money anymore. Meghan could before she was married. She was independently wealthy. She still is independently wealthy. Harry, of course, does have money from his late mother's legacy and a bit from the Queen Mother's legacy as well. Some people are estimating 20 million, but we don't know exactly what the figures are on that. So that is just speculation. So they are independently wealthy in their own right, but they can't go out and just earn money anymore. Anything they make is usually donated to charity, blah blah blah. So in exchange for a life of dedicated service to the UK, to the Commonwealth, to any other realms of which the monarch is head of, they are dedicating a life of service. So in exchange for that, for being a working royal, it is typical that the royals do get some perks, which include, usually funded or heavily subsidised housing in exchange for being a working royal. So that is another point which I've not seen bandied around as much as all the outrage that's been coming across in a lot of the media. Paul Fisher says, well, I for one don't want my taxes spent on any royal. And that is another valid point. Some people support Republic, which is an organisation which wants to abolish the monarchy. And you know that I am perfectly fair in my views and what I do, and I am more than capable of telling people about Republic. Republic is an organisation which doesn't want the monarchy to exist, and I do believe that they don't typically have that much public support. I mean, whenever polls are done, support for Republic doesn't really come out particularly high. Most people in this country are in favour of the monarchy, and polls do show that. So if you want to look up stats, you can go and research stats on Republic, and if you are of a Republic leaning, you can go to their website and you can take a look and see what you think about that. Mrs. BSN says, thank you for this vlog, joined at the right time. You did indeed. We have a lot to talk about. PJR says, is there any way to shut these false stories down? It's a hard one. PJR says, look at all they had to do. All the electrics, all of the plumbing, taking 5 properties down to 1. It was in a state. I mean, I remember sat here looking at the pictures and people saying, oh, it doesn't look that bad. Well, it was bad. Yeah, there was a lot of work, and especially with listed buildings, it can be very expensive. But I just wasn't sure that 2.4 million, I didn't expect it to be that expensive, to be honest. If I'm being honest, I wasn't expecting. I was a bit shocked at that cost. Robbins says, William and Catherine will be king and queen. They will indeed. Mrs. BSN says, oh, I think I've lost some comments. It's just zoomed all the way down to the bottom. Hang on. Let's go back. Okay, Paul Fisher says, the Queen is one of the richest ladies in the world. 2.4 million is peanuts for her. If they need their properties fixed, they should pay for it themselves. Well, they have, out of the sovereign grant. That money is there to renovate buildings. So whether it was Harry and Meghan that lived there or who else, that money was going to be spent, I presume, because it was earmarked for redevelopment on that property. And that money has not been taken out. It hasn't been taken off hospitals or other charities. That was money of the sovereign grant that they have taken out of the sovereign grant to pay for that renovation, which was going to be done anyway. So no hospitals or anything has lost out from that. PJR says, look at all they had to do, all the electrics. Yes, exactly. I think I just read your comment as well. Mrs. BSN says, to change 5 housing units into 1 house, again in today's, to keep in line with standards, 2.4 million. But it's not 2.4 million dollars. If you convert 2.4 million to dollars, it's more probably like 3 million in dollars, I would probably say. You're saying there are horrid comments on the royal family tweets. Yes, I mean, okay, every year the royal finances come out. There is always people that scrutinise them, pick holes in them, especially people who support Republic. Republic always comes out with that there should be a review on the monarchy spending, blah blah blah, every year. But this year they've got something else extra to pick on, and that is the fact that some of that money was used to fund the renovation of Harry and Meghan's property. So it's just given them a little bit of extra ammunition to put in their cannon, and of course they've fired it. But usually it falls on deaf ears. They can call for a public inquiry into it. That's fine. If there was a public inquiry into it, they would find no wrongdoing, as well they know, because again, that money was earmarked for the sovereign to spend on this type of thing. So there is no wrongdoing being done. Let there be an inquiry. If they want, that's fine. Sandy P says, why was Robert Jobson always criticising? You'll have to ask him. Tweet him and ask him. There we go. Mrs. VSN says, given the limited amount of time, it is what it is. It is. I mean, again, some of those, escalated costs for the 2.4 million. I mean, what people who have renovated properties know that one of the biggest costs of renovating a property is labour. And we know that they were in a rush to get ready for... So I've got a cat here. Hello, Rory. They were in a rush, weren't they, Rory, to get the house ready for baby Archie. So they may have had round-the-clock work going on. And labour is very, very expensive. So that could have, escalated some of the costs slightly. There you go. And Rory says he loves monarchy. And he is not a supporter of Republic. So there we go. There we go. Yes, the moderator is pulling the trigger today. There we go. Cynthia says, cost of preserving historical buildings is high but worth it. Yes, I mean, listed buildings do come out more expensive than, for example, if you were just doing a new build. But I just wasn't expecting 2.4 million. Maureen says, the roof desperately needed doing before Harry and Meghan moved in, and that was already earmarked at a cost of 1.5. I don't think it would have cost 1.5 million for the roof. They weren't lining it with lead. I mean, some roofs on castles and things are lead, and yes, that would be very, very expensive. But they reused the tiles, just like we did with the cottage that I'm in. They take the tiles off, they replace the beams and rafters and joists that are rotten, and then they put the tiles back on. So there wasn't any extra tiling costs. It was just kind of beams and wood, and so they normally like to replace like for like with things like that. But I certainly don't think a roof would cost 1.5 million unless it was lead, and it wasn't. It was tile. Mel says their cottage was DSOD to be in horrible... Yes, it was in bad condition. Carol says she didn't put in the yoga room. No, they did not. But without the rules, the UK wouldn't have the money coming in that they do now. Again, tourism is definitely affected by the royal family in a positive way. Yes, it is a Crown Estate property. Okay, and my finger's just... Hang on, my page has skipped down. I'm just going to go back to where it was. Right. Again, people were having issues with sound being out of sync. I can't help that. If something goes wrong with the stream, technological wise, I can't help it. So just roll with the punches. HN the King says, Queen Mary never cleaned it up after her. How rude. Yes, it's been in a right old state, hasn't it? Sandy P says, BBC News is racially portraying Meghan as a horrible person and her skin colour made a totally black skin. Oh, about the BBC sketch. Well, I don't think it's been out yet. So I'm going to reserve judgment on it until we've actually seen it. So if anyone knows where you can find it, I don't think it's been out yet. I will, of course, take a look at it. Becky Ray says, they bring a lot of money into England. That is somewhat of a job. They give a lot of... Yes, most definitely. Mel says, I heard the term dilapidated used in reference... Yes, it was. It was dilapidated. Most definitely. Patricia says, hi everyone, sorry I'm late. Oh, I hope you don't need anything bad from the doctor. Elaine Park says, well, I, for one, British subject, do not want a republic. Most people don't want a republic. But some people like to shout very loud, don't they? Carol Lewis says, they are making fun of Meghan on TV. We will be looking at that because we don't know that it is entirely making fun until we've seen it. So yes, there was an article written where The lady who wrote it and voiced it did give her opinions on to why. It sounded like she was trying to be what's the word? What's the word where I forgot the word. It's when you're trying to portray somebody as someone that they're not. Irony, ironic. I think she was trying to say that it's ironic if you read the piece. So until we've actually seen it, I can't really judge it to tell if it was in irony or not, or whether it was an attack. Again, the BBC, with the Danny Baker thing, they sacked him just, for what he did, for posting that photograph of Archie. They sacked him. So it doesn't really match to me that they would then go and put something out that was intended to be racist against Meghan. So I want to see it. I want to see it, and then we will judge it, and I will give my opinion on what I think it is, and I will just give my opinion. Mary Thomas says the taxpayers were doing this since the royal inception. Exactly. No. Well, 89 pence has gone up. It has gone up to, I think it's £1.20 something now, and I think that includes the additional cost of renovating Buckingham Palace, which is a one-off thing for 10 years. So I think the cost will go down again after about 10 years. But some key financial details are that the total sovereign grant for 2018 to 19, including the dedicated amount for resurfacing Buckingham Palace, amounted to 82.2 million, equivalent to £1.24 per person in the UK. The 82.2 million grant is made up of a core grant of 49.3 million and an additional dedicated amount for resurfacing of 32.9 million. But that is only for 10 years, then that drops off. Additional income generated from facilities, managed charges and property rental increased to 17.8 million. You can read it all in the financial documents. It's also important to remember that for that cost, over 3,200 official engagements across the UK and overseas were undertaken by members of the royal family. Over 160,000 guests were welcomed at royal palaces at events such as garden parties and investitures, and over 7.9 million people saw items from the Royal Collection Trust in royal palaces. So there we go. So you get a lot of bang for your buck. The impact of that money is felt in this country and abroad, especially with the royal tours, which are at the request of the government. So I always think to myself, if we did have no monarchy, that work would still have to be carried out by officials, by public officials. Think about, foreign tours that are undertaken by presidents and all the rest of it. So all of that work would have to be met. And I always think that actually, if politicians were doing it, I think the cost would be far, far higher. I think there would be a lot more waste. The monarchy has actually streamlined down a lot. They are really conscious about their environmental impact. They are, concerned about finding the most appropriate method of transportation to meet the need of certain engagements. So actually, things have changed a lot within the last 20 to 30 years in terms of really kind of getting down the cost of monarchy. And actually, I would say that, the cost of things is most definitely, they really have tried to get the cost down, so that they can have more impact with the money that they've got. So that, I think, is another important point to remember. Becky Ray says, I think the main point here is that it is only the Duke and Duchess of Sussex million. It's everywhere today. HN the King says, the realisation of the royal finances draws the Republicans out of their doghouses this time of year. Every year. Deborah Grant says, I'm a British origin and I feel that whatever the Queen decides to do with the tax or her own money is her business. I most definitely agree there. Yes, the historic restorations to Buckingham Palace racks up a lot of money. In fact, I think I got it wrong, didn't I? Wasn't the palace isn't the estimated renovation cost around about 300 million? It could be about 300 million, but compare that to the Palace of Westminster, which is where all the parliamentarians sit, where Parliament is, and that's estimated the renovations there are going to cost over 1.5 billion, and that's primarily spent on government, basically. So compare and contrast. HN the King says, what I'm most disappointed about is the increase in carbon emissions. Time for the monarch to receive a new electric Bentley. I'm serious. A lot of the emissions went up because of plane transportation. There were added tours at the request of the government. So again, I always say, if those tours were not taken out by the royal family, they would have to be met by politicians who would probably, well, they would have the same emissions costs and impact on the environment. I don't know what they're going to do in the future about aeroplane transport. I mean, I don't know if there is an alternative to the regular aeroplane fuel, but you know, at the moment, well, it's a catch-22. You either have a royal yacht to send them around the world, which takes a lot longer in terms of time, but might be a little bit more efficient, or you have plane emissions. I mean, you know, how do you get them to different places to have that impact? So I think that is something that just has to be taken on the chin at the moment until an alternative can be found. Can we talk Wimbledon? You can. Will Meghan go? I don't know. Just to be really quick on that one. Now, hang on. I think I've lost my place. I'm back. MSMB says, not surprised by the total cost because Frogmore Cottage needed structural renovation, turning it back into a single family residence, not counting any mould or asbestos. Yeah, I mean, I also don't know if it needed underpinning. I mean, these properties built in the 1800s weren't underpinned. You know, my property wasn't underpinned. They had to go back in and underpin it. And Lewis says Frogmore Cottage is a listed building. That was earmarked. Yes, it was. Melody says, was William and Catherine criticised? Yes, they were. They were. You can go and find the articles. They were. B Panda says, is 2.4 million a lot of money for such property? Yeah. Is 2.4 million a lot of money for such property? Yeah, I think so. I mean, personally, I've watched renovation shows here in the UK where they've renovated whole castles and it didn't cost 2.4 million. But anyway, you know, we don't know the specific breakdown. The substation, the electrical substation they had could have cost a fortune. I don't know. We don't know if there was any soundproofing. Little Annie says, every time there are renovations on royal property, there is criticism, most definitely. Robin Hannah says, satirical and satire. Yes, that's another word I was looking for. So, we're going to have to wait and see on that one. Mel says, what I heard was totally racist. Again, wait and see. Wait and see it. If it is, if I look at it, and I mean, let's not forget, you know, I do know now, I mean, I will be watching it through two prisms now. I'll be looking at it through the view of British humour, which I understand now is probably cultural. And I didn't understand that before. In fact, as a Brit, I don't think we usually think about things. Understand that before. In fact, as a Brit, I don't think we usually think about things as ourselves, as particularly having a culture. But I know that sometimes our sense of humour doesn't translate to other countries. So I will be looking at it through the prism of British humour. I'm a Brit, I've lived here all my life, I have British humour. I will be looking at it through that prism. But also, over the past year, I will be looking at it through that prism. But also, over the past year, I have learned about racism in a lot of its forms, and I've heard a lot about how code words and code things are used to describe people of colour, women of colour in particular, with regards to being demanding, being bossy, being fussy. So I will also be looking at this when it airs through that prism as well, and I will make a balanced judgment on what I think. If I think it is racist, I will tell you. And I will tell you otherwise if I don't. So I will watch it and you will get a British person's perspective on the whole thing. So I will be looking at it on the whole thing. So I will be looking at it through two different prisms, if you like. Dave says, how much are we all paying in tax to the Royal? £1.22 a person, I think. Becky Ray says, any idea on the christening? No. And no official date has been made. People saying July the 4th. I don't know where they've got that from because nothing officially has been announced. Mrs. BSN says, the BBC rehired the guy back. I haven't heard that, so I'll have to go and check that one out. Mrs. BSN says, please take it from people of colour that it is not good. I will, and you know I will. You know I will. I will be looking at it very objectively. Dave Kelvin says, I did gladly give my task until I died to the royals. I love them all, but like all things in life, I have my favourites, which is Harry and Meghan. Everyone is entitled to their favourites. Paulette says, no matter what happens, they will always blame Meghan. It's £1.48 a year to taxpayers. The monarch brings in millions of dollars. They do. I agree, Elderly Poodle, we must keep our historical buildings up to date and secured for the future. Again, I've lost my place. Hang on. No, I'm back there now. Live, Love and Laugh says, I don't think the economy of Britain would be as strong if it was not for the royal family. They bring the most revenue in the country. Without them, it would be dire. Yes, there were 2 years of renovations at Kensington Palace, £4.5 million cost, most definitely. Right, I'm going to kind of zip down to the bottom, I think. HN the King says, I don't know how to solve the plane emissions, but there could definitely be other steps taken, such as the cars they use. Well, Prince Charles is already making headway with his I-Pace in terms of emissions. Sandy P says, who really built Buckingham Palace? Well, Buckingham Palace was built by the Duke of Buckingham. So it was privately funded and then it was acquired by the monarchy over time. And Windsor Castle goes back to way when. Becky Munger says, British humour is delightful. I have learned that we do have a specific brand of humour that doesn't necessarily resonate with everybody. There you go. It is what it is. MSB 2012 says, also the security considerations must have added cost. Mrs. BSN CO9 says, I hope there is a new yacht commissioned. Me too, most definitely. PJR says, you are frozen on my screen. Yes, I think I did see it freeze for a little bit. I hope I'm unfrozen now. Mel says, you're going to be shocked by the BBC, so shabby. I am reserving judgment and I will see. If I think it is, I will tell you, most definitely. Hang on, going up. Wait a minute. Cricket1 says, no, it most definitely does not translate. Definitely not to the USA and the state of Texas. Yeah, I am aware. Believe me, I am aware. I am totally 100%. I'm with you 100%. I can see how people outside of this country don't get our humour. I can see it. We have a very self-deprecating sense of humour. We like to almost kind of celebrate our bad bits. I'm not saying that this is picking on Meghan's bad bits. I'm not saying she's got any bad bits, but you know, if we've got a face full of spots, we like to make a joke about it. If we've got big sticky out teeth, we like to make a joke of it ourselves. We have a very self-deprecating sense of humour, whereas I know other countries, it's all, you know, celebrating how much bling you've got, how many hoes you've got, and all the rest of it, and that is celebrated. Sort of self-promotion is celebrated. But in the UK, we're very much like, yeah, we'll laugh at, like, you know, how many spots you've got because it's funny. It doesn't translate. I know it doesn't translate, and I've learnt that over my 3 years, 4 years here on YouTube, I know that humour doesn't always translate. So I'll see. I will give you my honest opinion. Alicia says, you'd be surprised how many people are naive when it comes to racism. I've learnt a lot from people that come to this channel about, for example, the different code words and things that are used. I didn't know anything about. Why would I know anything about? But I didn't know anything about the demanding, fussy thing that was going on, because I myself do not associate anybody with being demanding or fussy. I'm demanding and fussy. I know I'm demanding and fussy, so I don't pin that on a particular race. But I have learned that it is a real thing, and that people do have those connotations that I wasn't aware of. And if I think that this BBC thing is that, then I will tell you. I will be looking out for it. Jermaine Gray says, this bullying of Meghan will only stop when the entire royal family take a stand against it. Creative Life. Oh, I've got a donation from Kay Johnson, $9.99. Thank you so much to you, Kay. I will give you a fan flap. Thank you so much for supporting. Mwah. It's getting dark outside. You can barely see me. Although it's better than being a Casper. Let's have a look. Oh no, people aren't getting repeats, are they? Oh no. Ginger P says, what I don't understand is why they blame Meghan for everything, why they can't see that Meghan and Harry make decisions as a couple. Oh, the ring thing. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the ring wasn't just Meghan. It was to fit the new eternity ring, and yeah, Harry probably had a big hand in that too. Yes, William the Conqueror built Windsor Castle. Cheryl says, oh, hang on, low battery. Oh no, I can't stay terribly too long. I've got a low battery. Cheryl says, these people are something else. If Meghan does, she's damned. If she doesn't, she is still damned. Yeah, I am so tired of all this stupid drama, and they just want to tear and wear her down. Well, they won't, because she doesn't listen to the noise. Christine says, I'm starting to ignore anything royal, tired of all the foolishness. I check in with you and ignore the rest. Right. So I'm just going to skip all the way down to Anne says, many foreigners don't understand the British humour. That is the problem. You're not from Great Britain, but love the humour. I would like, if you are a British person, because I don't know whether I've explained it in a good way or not. It's really hard to explain, I suppose, your own culture and your own kind of sense of humours. But if you are a British person or from the UK, please leave a comment in the comment section so that everyone can see your take on it as well. So please let everyone know. PJR says, our public broadcasting channel is inundated with Brit humour. I totally get your humour. Marilyn says, discrimination is not humorous. I agree, but we need to wait and see if this is the discrimination part. That's what we need to wait and see, because we're judging something that we haven't necessarily seen. In fact, the lady that wrote the script for what the character of Meghan says, and does the voice as well, it's the same lady, I do believe is Nigerian. And again, I've heard people say, well, why would a Nigerian woman write that about another person of colour or who has a mixed heritage? Well, again, that's my question. Why? So is it discrimination? Is she being a horrible person? I need to see it. I need to really see it. I think there's more to it than just what's at face value. So I would implore people to reserve judgment and wait until you've actually seen it before you lay into it, because it might not be what you think it's going to be. That's my point, and I will be looking at it through that lens as well. So we will have to wait and see. I actually think what it might end up being is that she's made the character so ridiculous to poke fun at what is actually being said about Meghan. I think it's irony. That's what I'm getting from what the lady said in the article. I forgot her name, I'm sorry. But I think she is of Nigerian origin. And from what she said, I think she's trying to be ironic and actually turning it around and poking fun at the ridiculousness of the situation that is around Meghan at the moment. That's what I think, but I haven't seen it, so I don't know. So I will let you know if I think it's that or not. Cheryl says there is racism in all races. There is. Elect Lady Gloria says black people are racist towards each other. Let's just wait and see. Let's just wait and see. Yes, I've just heard that Danny B was rehired. Someone said in the comment, but I need to go and check that one out. Idalina says, I'm not deleting anybody. Hermina says, from USA, this is racist whether it was written from a black person. She's been paid money for this. It sounds like she was given a free arm to write what she wanted to do with that character. But again, we need to wait until we've seen it before we actually, lampoon it. Oh, Sandra says it went out on last Sunday. What? Oh no, I haven't seen it. Is it out now? Really? You say you saw it and it was absolutely rubbish and it wasn't funny. Oh, is it only... Because I looked on YouTube to see if it was on there and I couldn't find it. Okay, I will be looking at iPlayer to go and find it. DM says, I think we need to follow your lead and educate ourselves about how the monarchy works. Is funding and the benefits via tour. Well, I will leave a link now. I did post it earlier, but lots of people weren't in at the time. So I will post a link to all of the financial reports. So that should come up. So do go and check that out. Scott Goff says, satire has always been a big part of British humour, but you found it offensive. I need to see it then. Paulette says, yes, my family member saw it and said it was offensive. Okay, I will be going to watch it. And then the next time I do a chat, I will tell you. Most definitely. Right, now, we've been live for 47 minutes. HM the King says, I haven't seen it anywhere. All I've seen is the article and a picture of the character. I haven't seen it. But if you're saying it's on iPlayer, I've got iPlayer. I will go ahead and find it if it's out. Creative Life says, black people know the saying that all skin folk aren't kinfolk. I hear you. I hear you. And I think that can be for lots of other countries and peoples too. But yes, I will go and find it and watch it, and then I will tell you. Okay, I'm going to leave it here because we've spoken at length about the whole Meghan and Harry 2.4 million on Frogmore Cottage, and I'm just going to kind of summarise up on it. I think it was a lot of money to spend on a renovation project that isn't even finished and doesn't include the fixtures and fittings. However, I have no problem whatsoever with it being taken from the sovereign grant, because obviously it was earmarked for redevelopment anyway. So, and they need a home. They are working royals. They can't earn their own money. So I have no problem with that being funded. That's, it is what it is, and it costs what it costs. We don't know all the intricacies of what costs what and whatever. So I just hope they weren't ripped off in terms of the 2.4 million, because it does seem a very high figure. There we go. Sandy P says, did the royal family make an agreement with the state for their state? Do you mean in terms of the money? Yes, there was deals done long ago that ensure that the royal family is funded. I did briefly touch on that, but it is a little bit complicated, but I tried to simplify it. So I'm going to go now. Please leave me a comment in the comment section below. If you've seen the new Meghan BBC thing, let me know what you thought. and of course I will go and watch it as well. So if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share on social media, and also hit the notification bell so that you know whenever I pop up and do a live or post a new video. So